Hello, and welcome to the Normal Intuitive. My name is Nancy. Thank you so much for joining me. This is episode number 18, and I am actually recording at about exactly 5 a.m. in the morning. I have not been able to sleep, and so I am up recording a podcast, and it is beautiful out. Actually, it's dawn, and the light is streaming through the windows, and I thought this was the perfect time to record a podcast. There's something, Sylvia Browne actually said that dawn and right before dawn was a really intense time for spiritual activity. She used to say that's why you could see ghosts and stuff like that during the middle of the night and in this kind of pre-dawn time of day, because the energy was so close to us. So if you ever, wake up to weird sounds, or, it's 4 a.m. and you think you see something, you just may. Also, because I don't know where my headphones are and I don't want to wake up anyone else in the house, I apologize. I am recording this straight off my phone. And I apologize for the sleepy voice. But if you're joining me for the first time, let's get this out of the way. First of all, I appreciate you listening to my podcast in the first place. I am a psychic medium. That means that I can foretell the future, supposedly, and I can also connect with people that have passed on. And I say supposedly, but I can. I don't like to be known as just a psychic medium, which is why I call myself the Normal Intuitive, because in addition to being a psychic medium, I am also a mom of 2 living children. I'm a spouse of 11 years. I have 2 cats, 2 dogs, probably some of which you might hear on this podcast as they walk around and purr and whatever else they're wandering around right now. So I was thinking while I was trying to sleep about what I've learned as a psychic intuitive and what I know as the position I'm in as being able to talk to people that have passed on, and the number of people I've talked to and that have passed on. One thing, and I get this question a lot, is, are they happy? Are they in pain? Are they healthy? And of course they're healthy. But what I want to touch on is the happiness. Because, I think that if you were indoctrinated in some kind of mainstream religion growing up, you know that heaven is supposed to be this very ethereal place. But what you may not realize is they're happy doing things other than playing on harps. Would you be happy playing on harps and just like floating around in clouds? No. So you can do whatever you can do on earth, you can do in heaven, or as I call it, home. So you can, if you love to ski, you will be skiing if you want to ski, or swimming, or whatever you love to do on earth, that will translate into heaven. After all, it is our eternal home, and we are going to do things just as we do on earth, except we're not going to go to the bathroom or, worry about mundane things. And we definitely don't worry, or we don't have concerns. But we definitely are in this happy, wonderful state of bliss, knowing that we are safe with our creators. And I say creators, a masculine part of God and a feminine part of God. And if that surprises you, I'm sorry, and I'm sorry to break this to you, but it makes a lot of sense, because if there's a man and a woman down here, and there's combinations of those down here, then shouldn't God be everything that we are and represents? So something for you to chew on. But what I really wanted to get to as far as this happiness is included in this happiness from home and at home is the personalities. Whoever they were on earth, they are in spirit at home, and it's amplified. So I have said this before, but people that were very boisterous and loud and liked to be the center of attention, those are the people that will come through right away for me, because they immediately see an opening to be able to talk to a loved one, and they are here and they are loud and they let me know it. On the other hand, if you were quiet or a little bit shy, then you're also going to come across that way. I have had clients where we connected with maybe a mother and a father, and it would be interesting because you would hear the father speak mainly during that time. And, I would have connected with the mom, but the client's going, well, can I talk to my mom now? And the mom's just not coming through. And as it turns out, that was kind of the personality, or it wasn't just kind of, that was the personality in life, is they were the type of person to wait for someone to finish speaking. They didn't like to interrupt. That's what they're going to be in spirit, and that's how they're going to come across, and that's how we are at home. So for instance, like my mom would not interrupt. My cat is actually chewing on my phone right now. I apologize. My mom definitely hates to be the center of attention, doesn't like to be recognized, definitely loves her children, but she definitely is the type of person that it takes a while to warm up to. So after, she's still here on earth, but when she passes, I'm not assuming that she's going to be throwing, signs at me left and right, because that's not my mom. On the other hand, if you have a child, or you have an aunt or an uncle, and they love to maybe surprise you, then they're going to be the one that's, hitting something at the door. They're the ones going to be making a sound. So think about this when you're going through your day, and if you're trying to connect with someone that has passed on, think about their personality on earth, and think about how that would translate in heaven, and how would they get your attention? How would they get your attention on earth? For instance, I had a client the other day, and I apologize because I keep referencing her session, but it was so wonderful. I've mentioned her on another podcast already, but I had a client the other day that lost her son a few years ago, unfortunately, after an unfortunate accident. And he was something else. He loved to be the center of attention, but he was funny. And he had been sending his mom these signs left and right because he was loud, and he was sending a bird, and he was sending it, and he was all these birds. And so we get to the part of the session, and my client's going, this is great, and I see that you're connecting with my son, but where are the signs? I'm missing all the signs. And I asked him, and he told me, well, I've been sending her birds all the time. And I said this, and she looked at me, and her face kind of fell, and she said, I see those birds all the time. I just assumed it was, that was too obvious. No. Don't think, or it was a coincidence. No, it's not going to be a coincidence. If you lose someone and they were the type of person to, immediately call you back, or immediately, come to you in life, most likely as soon as they get through that transition period, which by the way can take days, weeks, months to get through before they can actually connect with you. But when they get to that point and they're sending you signs, it'll happen. But if they were maybe more like how my mom is, and kind of quiet, and, didn't really like to cause a scene, then those people are not going to be sending you those kinds of signs. For instance, my grandmother, who passed 20 some odd years ago, was very much that type of person. Very quiet, very much loved her family, but very quiet until you got to know her. And I, even as a psychic medium, I don't think I've connected with her on a spiritual level much, if at all, until actually a few months ago, I was down in my basement and I was looking through old photos. And all of a sudden, a paper fell out of all these photos. And it was a letter or a note that my grandmother had written me on just a piece of scrap paper, 30 years ago. And it just randomly fell out. And there it was, her beautiful handwriting. And I felt her. And I said hello. And I knew that that was her coming around and saying hello. This wasn't a loud gesture. This wasn't a knock at the door. This was a piece of paper falling out of photos. Now, you could say it was a coincidence, and you could say that, that just happened. Sure. But I know that it was my grandmother because that is the type of thing that she would do, is just to let me know I'm still here. So that's, as far as signs go, that's what you should be looking for. And I want to point this out, and I think just because I'm looking at my cat, I'm thinking about it, is animals can send you signs as well. And this actually happened to me a few years ago after we lost our one of our cats that had been around for 15, 17 years of my life. And I was actually driving home picking up his urn. And I put my hand on his urn, and it was sunset. And I remember this very clearly. And I was talking to him, and I just said, I love you, sweet boy. And all of a sudden, all of the lights in my car went dim. And it was dusk. I mean, all the lights in my car were on. They went dim. And I heard very clearly in my head, I will see you again. And I knew it was my cat letting me know he had made the transition and he was safe. So animals can send you signs as well. And I've heard this from other clients, that they will think maybe they'll, one thing I do hear more often than not from animals is people will think they see their pet that has passed on. They look in the corner, they look out the corner of their eye, and all of a sudden there's their animal. That's definitely a sign that your pet isn't a ghost. They're just letting you know that they're safe and they're still watching over you. And your animals 100% will still watch over you from home in spirit form. Just because they pass on does not mean that they have stopped being your pet and your protector. Are they in heaven and safe? 100% yes, but they are still very much your pet. I have an Akita that we lost about 6 years ago now, and she is still very much a part of our lives. And in fact, my 4.5-year-old son talks about her very familiarly. So she is definitely around and still making her presence known in our family. It doesn't hurt that I am more in tune to this, but anyone can do this as well. Anyone can tune in. You just have to remove that doubt, thinking that it's just a coincidence. I hate that word. There's no such thing as coincidences. No such thing. Everything is happening in this beautiful web of existence between here and heaven. No coincidences at all. What I wanted to finally touch on this podcast was what I really was thinking about as I was trying to sleep. And that is our personalities. Our personalities, what we liked, what we didn't like, the friends that we had, all of that continues on. So if you are really interested in science and space and the great beyond, you are going to continue your research after you pass on. You are going to continue that. And you're also going to hang out with those types of people. It's interesting because I'll have clients that I'll connect with people that maybe didn't necessarily get along. And they'll come in separately into a reading, but they won't come in together. They won't have conversations together, if that makes sense. So maybe I'll have a mom and a dad that will be, I can hear both of them very clearly at the same time, or they'll be having a conversation at the same time. But then you'll have clients where you have, maybe an aunt and uncle that hated each other, and one will come in and then the other. Well, they're not hanging out at home. You're not going to hang around people that you didn't get along with in heaven. Are you happy? Have you forgiven them? Yes, of course. You are not holding a grudge still. You understand why your Aunt Sally took the vase when she did. You'll understand why so-and-so did this. You have a complete and utter understanding of why things happened the way they did and forgiveness of that. But it doesn't mean that you have to hang in the same social circles. So if there's a sibling that you do not get along with, or maybe your spouse, or maybe an ex-spouse, and you're thinking, goodness gracious, or maybe your grandparents didn't get along and they're buried next to each other, don't worry. They're not hanging. Just because they're buried next to each other doesn't mean they're hanging out at home together. And it doesn't mean that you have to continue the roles that you played on earth unless you wanted to. So for instance, I know that my husband and I are really good